What's going on, people? This is Shok, and obviously this video is going to be talking about the recent news that's came out saying that Sony will actually be skipping E3 2019 next year. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be interested in my thoughts on this, considering 50,000 million people have already sent me this article and this news, so I'm going to go ahead and do a video on it. And this will probably be real quick because honestly, there's not too much to say because I guess for Sony it makes complete and total sense, and here's why. Sony has shown the same shit for the last, 5 years. Of course, that's an exaggeration because the generation's only been going on, for roughly 5 years or whatever. But you guys know what I mean. You get the point. There doesn't really seem to be anything new that they have to show. And if they did have anything new to show, that would also be a waste because we know the PS5 is around the corner. So why would they invest and put all these big AAA projects from their, premier developers on the PS4 when the PS5 is arguably probably launching in 2020, maybe, most likely. So it'd be kind of a waste to just put these big ass projects, on the PS4 and then the PS5 launches next year and like, hey, those could have been launch titles or, year one titles and things like that. And that kind of ties in with what I was saying, with Nintendo back when the Switch was known as, the NX or whatever. And I was like, man, I hope every game announced for this console right now, just gets canceled and announced for the NX because they'll be wasted on the Wii U. They'll be completely wasted. I mean, the install base is incredibly small anyways. They won't even sell how much they deserve to sell. You know what I mean? And of course, on the PS4, those games would still sell, so it's not the same situation in that regard. But I'm just saying that in terms of you might as well. It's so close to the next system, you might as well delay it a bit, work on it a little bit more polished up, and then throw it on the PS5 instead. You know what I mean? So this makes perfect sense. Do I like the fact that Sony is doing this? No. No, I don't like any console manufacturer, dipping out of E3 like that because still to me, I love E3. E3 is like a sacred thing for me. It's supposed to be Christmas for video games, right? And it still will always be that way, but the console manufacturers, dipping out of their conferences during E3, it just kind of takes away some of that power, right? A lot of Nintendo fans, when Nintendo announced that they would be doing the directs in our conferences, were like, well, E3 is irrelevant anyways. No. E3 was not irrelevant. It's never been irrelevant. And it's still not irrelevant now, even if Sony is dipping away from it. And of course they'll be back. It's just going to be for this year because they're not going to have shit to show. And honestly, if you guys watch Sony this year, I don't know, it was a little rough as well. I mean, they had Sekiro and a couple of other things outside of that. That presentation was just very odd. And as far as quantity goes, there wasn't much there. And, it also makes sense when you think about the whole PS4 timeline. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm missing some games. But it seems this generation with the PS4, the quantity of first-party titles coming out from Sony is way lower than the quantity that came out on the PS3. And I think a large reason for that is the fact that Sony had no competition this generation, right? Nintendo and Microsoft shot themselves in the foot coming out the gate. They tripped themselves up. Sony didn't even have to do anything to them. Microsoft killed themselves with the whole DRM shit, and while they did revert that before the console launched, that stigma stuck. It stuck. People didn't forget what they did. People were just kind of screw Microsoft type deal. And then that alongside the fact that Microsoft didn't offer any freaking exclusives, they started putting everything on PC, so people were like, why would I buy an Xbox One when if I have a PC, I have the same library, but with the stronger system, And then with the Wii U, it's the Wii U. I don't have to go into all that. So Sony won by default. It was like 3, 2, 1, go, game set. This game's winner is Sony. Is how that shit happened. You know what I mean? Sony didn't have to lift a finger. So I think just overall, that's why we've gotten kind of a lower quantity of first-party titles. So that also kind of probably ties in why we're not going to be seeing them have this big, huge conference and presence at E3. I think E3 will still be fine. Like I said, I'm sure this is a temporary thing. I'm sure with the PS5, Sony will return to the stage. Maybe they'll reveal it at their own event like they did the PS4. But I'm saying afterwards, I definitely see them going back to the stage with E3. Hopefully, they don't do that weird, that weird setup and style they did earlier this year. I did not like that at all. That format, I did not like that format at all. But yeah, guys, if you think about it, Sony's been showing the same games for the last couple of years now. So there's really not much to surprise us. I mean, Last of Us 2 still has to drop. There's still games that have to drop. But as far as the games that are still out, but Ghost of Tsushima, Death Stranding, it's going to be a great movie. Last of Us, that already say Days Gone, Medieval, we've seen those games already, right? And anything new to be announced would be wasted on the PS4. So the games that we are already aware of and they've already shown either last year or beyond last year, we already know about, and there's probably really not much, cool, unique, shocking things to show about those games. We pretty much know what's going on with those games. So it makes sense that they want to spend all the time, money, and resources doing this stage conference when they're just going to be showing things that we've already goddamn seen. But here's looking forward to the PS5. Excited to see what that console brings. And we all know that Scarlet is going to be probably being announced around the same time for Microsoft. So it's going to be interesting to see how Nintendo reacts to this because they kind of just launched the Switch. The Wii U failed miserably, so they had to kind of abort the Wii U in the middle of what would be like its regular lifespan and go ahead and release the Switch. So Nintendo's in this odd, they're just in this odd mid-gen thing now. I'm not talking about power-wise. I'm talking about as far as, time-wise goes. It's going to be interesting. I'm pretty sure Nintendo's just kind of going to be on their own track, I guess, when it comes to console releases. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Peace. If I can turn this video off. Okay, there we go.